Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Banjo's Bead House Weekly Facebook Live. I am Lynda, one of the co-owners of Banjo's Bead House. And this week we are playing around with the bead of the month, which was for our April box, which is the Super Duo. And I'm going to have some fun playing around. I'm just trying to find the name of the pattern. With a variety of diamonds, bracelet and earrings, I should say, by Leslie Hope of Twisted Sister Beads. I'm going to do the earring. I will pop this pattern up as well as all the ingredients that I've used on the blog either tonight or tomorrow, and post a Facebook moment with a link to the blog once I've got all of that photographed and done, as always, as we do with our monthly challenge showcases. Sorry. It's been a very long week and my language clearly is escaping me right now. So I'm going to tip you guys down and we're going to have some fun with some Super Duos. So I've got on my mat here some chalk white luster Super Duos, some tropical blue waves, so beautiful bright blue, Ceylon pearl white Miyuki size 11s. I've got a couple centimeters of chain, an ear hook and a jump ring. And these little guys are the Vorkoti Super Duo bead endings. This pattern actually gets its name from the Vridi Super Duo substitute. I didn't have any in stock. Clearly didn't plan ahead quite as well as I thought. But it's a substitute bead. So I've chosen just to put in a Super Duo instead, and that's the beautiful thing about the symbols with substitutes. You can see here this is the shape of a Super Duo bead. It has the hole exactly as if you're stitching, but it's got a loop on the end, so that makes it the ending, whereas the substitute bead looks exactly like one of these guys but metal. So this is the pattern we're making. So you can see here you can do it as an earring or a bracelet option, so it's nice and fun. This is a confident beginner level and up pattern, as Leslie's described it, and it does require working with 2 needles, which is a little bit different, which is why I like this one. So you'll see on there is a black thread path and a red thread path as we go through everything, and that is as you switch needle sides. So I'm just going to put that off to the side, and the finished piece is this little guy. So this was the first side that I made up. So you can see I've had some fun playing with the blue and white shades. It's all nice and shiny for me. The light, unfortunately, in the shop right now is washing it out, but I'll make sure it's nice and shiny in the photo. As I've used the antique silver here, I played around with some stainless steel chain and added a stainless steel ear hook. So how do we create this little guy? So as I said, we've got 2 needles, and hi Kelly, thank you for joining us. With a length of file line on the end. I can't tell you what that length is because it was just an off-cut piece that I had. I think she specifies, no, can't see it in the instructions off the top of my head. So there is a small amount that you'll need. It's not huge. We start with a seed bead. We go into a Super Duo and we go into one of our ends into a Super Duo. So your outer Super Duo color is what you're working with first, and then the seed beads. So we grab and we're going to pull to get our work nice and centered, and so that's our starting point. And then we're going to be bouncing around between our 2 needles, and so we don't wind up in a knot. I suggest if you're working on your mat, tucking one out of the way, so that you don't wind up in a big mess like I did on a couple of occasions last night. Now, to start this, you are going to skip that bead because we want it to lock in on the side. We're going back through the hole we came out of to begin with. And I'm going to get my beads out of the way now. And we are going to exit through that hole. Now I'm not worrying about the other side and the fact that that's not tight up against it. We will come back and deal with that, but we are going to start adding our, no, I have already, no, I'm right. Sorry, I'm looking at the instructions and thinking I've missed a step, and I am actually okay. Yep. Okay. So from here, the next step is actually pick up your next bead. And you'll see here as we start to nestle, and you're picking up one white, and you're going to thread back through there and back through that top hole. I'm sorry if I'm going off camera as I'm doing this. Oops, so trying to get myself back on camera. So the next one we'll be picking up is a white bead, and then we'll be stitching into the top of the blue on the other side. So I'm going to put this needle down and actually go and work the other side of the piece now. Possibly should have done this part first, but you know, this is the things we do. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit to give myself a little bit more working space. So just as I did on the other side, I'm skipping the 11 and going through the blue. And because this is now the working side, I am going to pull that nice and tight, because we're not coming back through here, and I want a nice tight finish. Oops, making sure I've got the right needle. Pulling back up, giving that one, yep, so that's nice and tight if I've managed to pull the thread on the other side. We will set up our little seedy and come back through. So from our first needle, we've got our super duo, which is now going to nicely slot in between these two guys above that silver. And I'm going to pass through that side. I missed passing through the 11 as I did that, so we'll go through the 11 and back out through that super duo. And I already feel like I've made a mistake. Yes, I have. I should have added the next bead on there. So this is where it gets fun when you've got lots of thread paths now. Okay, so that thread's okay. It's the other thread that's now the problem. It's always a challenge when you're doing a 2-needle project to make sure you've done the same steps on each side so that you don't wind up making boo-boos like I just did, but at least it is fairly easy to correct. Okay, as we've come up, we actually need to add the next outer with, sorry, so I've picked up my other outer bead, grabbed my inner white, and we're going to thread through those beads because this thread actually needs to come out the other side now. So he's going to cross through that super duo and weave all the way to this other side. Where we're going to pop through that guy. Back down through that hole, just that one end, and then we'll be passing up. And that's the start of our next row as we do that pass up. Okay, so pulled him nice and tight. Now this little thread is now sitting in position to come through this super duo and we're going to pass through the seed bead as well once we're through the super duo. And if you've got very tight tension like me, pulling really tight at the end of each row once you've got all of your beads at this stage is probably better. so you don't log jam it all up. Okay, we're going back through. And we're coming out. And so both threads are in the same position on each side. They're both coming out of that one. So we've now added our first white. We need to add another white row. So to do that, we're going to pick up our blue and our end. So slide that down, skip the seed bead, go through the bottom of one of these, the top of the next. And then we're going to pick up a white, thread that through the top there. Careful not to pull the thread off my needle entirely. We are picking up another white as we're building out our little V shape. So you can see our threads are now crossing paths as buddies here. And we're going to add our end bead. So for this one, it's again skip, go through that top. Sorry, that one didn't need to come through here. Let's go through one, and he's weaving up to be the top thread for the next side. As you can see, I'm very used to working with one needle, so for me it's all about one stitch flow. So sometimes challenging yourself to do something different using two needles is more of a challenge your brain can take after a long week, but we will get there. So we are just finishing this one through. So this is the start of getting the thread that was on this side back across to the other side. And we're just going to weave our way through. So just trying to get can get your needle through multiples at one time, it does help this process. As I said, if also trying to remember not to pull my rows so tight until I'm actually all the way through, but I am a beader with a very tight tension, and I have a very consistent habit of pulling, and that makes this a little trickier for myself. Okay, so just clearing thread path collisions. Particularly when you've got a very translucent thread or even a black thread on some of your work, you do want to make sure you haven't crossed your thread paths, because it can cause all sorts of chaos in your work. And depending on how far back it is, it's a lot of unthreading to fix it. So just backing through there and moving that thread now to the top, where we're going to add another outside blue. So picking up my blue and my seed bead, getting that into position. Again, skipping the seed bead, so he's just acting as a bit of a stopper. This time we're picking up a white to continue our edge. Now if you had the seed bead substitute, so the symbol substitute, which is the variety, this is where you'd stitch it in, so you're actually stitching the center bead in now. I've chosen to just repeat the blue. So I've got a blue-white project using similar tones between the seed bead and the super duos. But you could have fun with 3 different shades and a 4th one for your seed beads, so do a really pretty ombre effect, or use the substitute. So lots of choices when you're playing around. So we are again at the end, and we're just going to pick up our seed bead. We're just going to go in and take that thread to the upside, and I'm not going to pull that so tight this time, so that I can actually get my needle in here and through that one, and then we've got to wiggle him all the way back across. Ouch. Never fun piercing yourself with a needle. Not something I recommend doing to yourself. Okay. One last one to go through. Okay, so we are through the seed bead, and I believe this is the point where, sorry, just playing catch up. Yeah, because this is the outside one and we actually start decreasing from this point, instead of weaving back to come out, we're actually going to weave up and go through that way. So I am going to leave that thread there, because of course we've made a boo-boo now on this end, which I need to reverse out. Okay, so I'll get myself out. It's the joys of getting into a groove. Okay. So that's actually, no. Okay. He should have been reinforced. I've missed a step somewhere, so forgive me. I'm going to have to back pedal. I will be missing a stitch somewhere in here and I have to go and fix it, but I'm not taking it apart right now to do that. Again, it's just the joys of 2 needle work when you're not, and I just de-threaded my needle. Okay. Okay, so we'll get that up. Oops. Okay, I know what I've done. When I've done this row, I've missed stitching that thread in properly. Okay. We will work out a solution as we get to this. I should have had that thread coming out of there to make this next step easier, so we will just do a circuit once I can get my needle to thread. Okay, so this is the correct side we're starting with, and we'll go fix up the other side in a minute. So instead of working on the outside and doing this step up and then adding, this time we're adding 2 seed beads. One's to fill the little gap here, and the next one is to complete the outside, so you get a nice little decorative finish. And this time as we pick up the blue, it's going on the inside track because we're now starting to do decreases in our work. So we go from there, we pick up a white, we pick up another white, oops, and then we're picking up a blue, and to fix my boo boo. Okay, I'm just going to pick up the 2 and I will weave a circuit here so that we are fixed up. But I've got a little bit of looseness in my stitching here, so I'm actually going to adjust for that at the same time. You can see that's a lot tighter already. And we're going to come up through that bead. Okay, except now I've lost the thread path of where I should have been, but that's okay. We will, it's all right, worked it out. So as we were coming back, we were adding there. It's going to be lots of thread in here now. And we're coming back through there. And we need to come, I've got to work out, sorry, my brain is now, I've got to come out of that one. Yeah, doing that turn has really screwed up my thread path. Okay, let's leave that thread there and we will figure that out when we get back across. Might have been easier to undo and fix my mistake. That's part of the fun, right? So I will work out, I might just be able to slip a needle up. Hopefully we can hide the thread error in my boo-boo because it is nicely reinforced in there. Yeah, Kelly, this is a fun, really easy pattern. Doesn't use a huge amount of super duo, so it's great if you've got a stash left over. You could, you know, keep making this bigger even if you want a bigger pendant. Add more layers in. I think it'd be really fun to do a big one and ombre it out, or even ombre light dark moving down through it. So lots of possibilities of some fun with this one. You can see tight thread path. Okay, so we're coming up. Okay. So we're coming up. Back down. Okay, and we're popping up. So, okay, I'm not such in a mess on this side, so I can do just going back to fix it. So we're coming out through that one, and we'll go back out to pick up the 11 before we move up. So we pick up our 11 because obviously we're on our decrease. We're going back through. We'll be picking up our blue. There we go. You'll never know I made a boo-boo in that design unless you're watching the video. Picking up another blue. Okay. Picking up our 11. Feeding back through. back through there and exiting out the top of the next row, and then it is needle change time. So we're going through that 11, and then weaving our way across. And you could have a lot of fun with this, playing around with coloured threads where you could see it on the outer edges. The great thing about this white with the fire line is it does blend in, but you could have some fun playing around just to get you a little bit of thread path showing if you wanted to as well. Okay, so we're out of there, back into our 11, and then we're going in again, weaving back out, picking up an 11 and picking up some blues, and I may not have put enough out on my mat. Oh no, the last row, this is stitching in the last row. And you can see I made a boo-boo here. I went straight into that bead and not back through. So that's why my thread path didn't look good. So it's easy. No, didn't follow my thread path then. I'd also gone through the white. Okay. So reverse out my thread path. So skip the 11. Go through the top of that one. Pick up a blue. Oops. That's the fun of the 2 needle, yep. Okay, so just need to get that needle out of the way. Oops. And untangle that again, make sure I'm going in the right direction. I'm still visible. So I've got my last blue one on, coming through. So picking up my white, threading through, and we need to go back through this one and exit out, ready for the last row. Okay, but first we need to work this side, so we're going over, through, 8. Now I've got myself into a tangle. It's creating a knot in my work. Never a good idea. Not mid-project anyway. Okay. And back through. And through the seed bead. And then back through, and we're going to exit out the top. So taking us to our last row of stitching. Oops, nearly dethreaded my needle. So for the last row, Sorry, bumping the camera that time. We're picking up our seed bead. We are threading through again. We're picking up our symbol piece, threading through, trying to not get that so twisted. There we go. Picking up our last seed bead and exiting back through. Okay, picking up our other needle, we are going through that seed bead. And this time we're going to work our way all the way over. Through the seed bead. And back. So now we just have to tie it off. Just giving it a good tug each direction to make sure we are nice and tight. You can see my tension was looser there. I had that the first time I actually remade it for my sample piece. That's just getting your tension right at the get-go. In theory, I could try and weave my way back around and pull it, but given that's on a single thread, I don't really think it's going to make a huge difference. That's more about paying attention at the start, which I forgot to do. Okay, so as we're finishing off, I'm just putting my needle under my thread path, wrapping that around a couple of times, pulling it back next to my thread path, and sliding that off. And I do have my scissors and forgot to pack my thread zapper. That thing lives on my desk next to my mat and I always forget to bring it in. One of these days I will actually remember to pack it. So repeating on the other side. Okay, and just trimming. So those tails will obviously get zapped off. And to finish this and actually turn it into an earring, as I said, I've got two little pieces of chain that I cut earlier. They're about 8-ish centimeters. I'm just going to open up my jump ring. Sorry, just finding the joints. I'm just going to open up my jump ring. When I actually get that join right. And of course I picked 4 mils, which are the tiniest. And still can't find my join to save my life this afternoon, clearly. There we go. We now have an open jump ring. So it's finding the midpoint in the chain, which I actually managed to do quite nicely on that one. And not so much on that one. Yep, you want your chain to be nice and balanced. And I'm just going to thread that through on that side and then just twist my jump ring closed, and on the other hand grab my ear hook, twist that open, thread on and twist close, and I have my fun pair of Super Duo earrings already done. So, you know, about an hour's worth of work and you've got a fun pair of earrings. If you don't want to make the earrings, and if you can simply make a number of these, join them with a jump ring here, turn them into a bracelet, or as a feature in a necklace would be great as well. Again, you can play around with your color mix here. You could scale it out and go bigger. It's just by adding more rows as you go. You can swap this out for one of the symbol elements, which is what's in the pattern. If you don't want to do a drop here, you could always stitch in a Super Uno. So it's like a Super Duo bead, but with only one hole. So it's kind of like it becomes a pendant drop style. So that's also an option for there. But yeah, a fun little play with Super Duos. I hope it's inspired you guys to pull them out of your stash and have a play. Next month's bead of the month is the ginkgo, so it's a fun floral inspired shape. So I'll be working on a project for that for sometime in May. We do have a couple of Super Duo boxes left if this has inspired you to have some fun with them, and we are still on pre-order for the ginkgo box that'll go out at the start of May. That's it for me for this week. I will be back next week with another fun project for Facebook Live. I will see you guys then. Bye for now.